All right, guys, let's get into our reviews. We're going to start off with The Boys, okay? This is a show from Amazon Prime. It's actually the first Amazon Prime show I've ever seen, and I'm very impressed with their production quality. It's super good. It's an 8-episode run. It's created by Seth Rogen, Eric Kripke. He did, like, Supernatural and every freaking thing else that has Seth Rogen in it, basically. I'm talking, like, I was surprised with the list. It's like, okay, obviously you guys are friends. And then Evan Goldberg, who did, my bad. Evan Goldberg's the Supernatural guy. He does everything. Or the Superbad. Gotcha. And then this other guy did Supernatural. I was an idiot and put Superbad as my example for a Seth Rogen movie. Anyways.
He is in Superbad, though.
He is, yeah. He's a lowly cop that's like not in it much. Just a bad example of it. He did Pineapple Express. Would have been a better one to do.
There you go.
The comic is by Garth Ensign. Now, Garth is the one that did Preacher, so that's a pretty big comic book series. And if you're a fan of Preacher, if you're familiar with Preacher, also by Seth Rogen, you're familiar with the vibe of this show, where it's bizarre and hardcore and freaking nuts. I read the first volume, which is like the first 4 issues or whatever of the comic, to try to like see what it's like. I almost couldn't get through it because I didn't like the art style. I didn't like the writing.
Art style can totally ruin it too. You can't get immersed into a story if you can't appreciate the detail and quality of the art.
And one thing about the comic book is there were a lot of like close-ups on faces, and it just kind of was like, I don't really care about this. Show me more of the environment behind you.
Yeah.
While this is going, I don't know. It just wasn't done very well. So we're gonna go full spoilers on this. You guys haven't watched this, right?
No.
But I'm gonna still spoil it for you, and you still should watch it afterwards. Okay. Because this is going to be the new thing. And this kind of became big out of nowhere. So I'm going to read the first. Here we go with me reading again. I'm the one that puts this shit together. Why do I set this up?
Good luck.
Yeah. The Boys is set in a universe where superpowered people are recognized as heroes by the general public and owned by a powerful corporation called Vought International. In the comic books, it's Vought America. Who ensures that they are properly marketed and monetized. Outside of their heroic personas, most are arrogant and corrupt. The series primarily focuses on 2 groups: the titular Boys, vigilante group seeking to keep corrupted heroes under control, and the Seven, Vought's international premier superhero team. The Boys are led by Billy Butcher, who is a badass. You guys gotta watch this. Billy Butcher, who despises all superpowered people, and Seven, who are led by the egotistical and unstable Homelander, also badass. As the conflict ensues between the 2 groups, the series also follows new members of each team. Hugh, or Huey Campbell, of the Boys, who joins the Vigilantes after his girlfriend is killed by a high-speed collision by the Seven's A train, and Annie January, also known as Starlight, I'll be calling her Starlight the whole time, of the Seven, a young and hopeful heroine forced to face the truth about the heroes she admires. So it's, I know we've seen this before where it's like, oh, it's superheroes, but they're not really the good guys. No, this is like the antithesis of this. This is exactly what it'd be like if we had Justice League in our world. I own, Superman shirts. Now imagine if Superman was getting a cut of that. Yeah. Then Superman would make sure that he's selling shirts. And so that's what you have. You have these 2 different sides. And what I love is both of these sides have leaders that go too far and are not great people. Yeah. You're rooting for both of them. One's super evil, and that's Superman. And, and then you have one that's like, yeah, pretty much super evil, and that's Billy Butcher. But then they have these new members that you're going with, and you're like, both can relate to each other in a way that you're so sad for everybody, and you want the best for everybody. And there are no real good people. Even Huey killed one guy in particular, and then Starlight has done things that she regrets, and like, well, yeah, she's in the eye of the persona. She's probably the most innocent of everybody in the show, to be honest with you. So I'm going to go over the characters real quick, and we'll just kind of go down their powers and who they belong to. Billy Butcher, he's the leader of the Boys. Now, he's played by Carl Urban. You guys recognize that name? He is the Doctor in the newer Star Trek movies.
Okay, yeah.
Bones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bones, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. I know
he's super good at this, because you got to think of him as like a rugged... He used to be the part of the CIA, now he's out on his own.
He looks kind of like Punisher or Wolverine kind of style, right?
Actually, think of Punisher
when
you're thinking of this guy, but with a beard. Okay?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Next, we have Huey. Now, in the comic books, what was really cool is the guy who made the comic books, he wanted to make this guy like Simon Pegg. Now, Simon Pegg is from, when Nick Frost does Shaun of the Dead and stuff like that, right? So he actually drew him just like it, and he wrote a letter asking if it was okay, and Simon Pegg's like totally cool with it.
Yeah.
And Simon Pegg joined this playing Huey's dad as like a little cameo kind of thing. So it was kind of a cool little thing like that. Anthony Starr, I'm sorry, plays Homelander. And now this guy, I don't remember. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything, but he is phenomenal. And what it is he plays a this guy who when you see him, you're like, oh, that's Superman. He's like, or Captain America like character because he has like an American flag as his cape and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And he is the pinnacle of like everything good. And then he'll turn his back and be like, fucking mortals. Like he can't stand anybody not super powered around him. And even the people that are around him that are not as powerful as him has no respect for. Yeah. He's super dangerous. Like I haven't seen somebody this straight up evil in a long time in anything. Okay. So I'm pretty excited about it.
And see the back. What is this group first before
the Seven?
Are they like a bad?
So think of the Seven as Justice League. I mean, so what's great about this comic book?
They're paid and controlled by the big corporation. Right?
Yeah. Okay. So this comic book actually was being made through DC, one of their side comic books. Oh, okay. And then they told him, no, you guys can't keep going because this is Superman. You guys are making A-Train is the Flash, Queen Maiev or whatever, she's a Wonder Woman. Like they're straight up all copies. And so they stopped them, and then they went to another company and was able to finish the run.
Okay.
Yeah, freaking nuts. And then so we'll go into Erin Moriarty plays Starlight. She's just super nice. Dominique McElliott, she plays Queen Maeve. That's it. Jesse T. Usher plays A-Train. Now he's like their Flash, and we'll go into how it starts off. But yeah, so he basically plays their Flash. On the boys' side, we have this guy named Lance Alonso. That's a tough name. He plays a dude named Mother's Milk. Okay. Straight up his name, dude. And he's crazy. Like the big buff, like Luke Cage, but a good guy, no superpowers, right? Nobody on the team has superpowers. Nobody on the boys, I mean. And then we have Chance Crawford. He plays the Deep. Now he's like their Aquaman. And this guy, oh my God, we're going to be talking so deep on him. Then we have Tommy Capon, who plays Frenchie, who's like the crazy, wily demolition man on the boys team. He's one of my favorite characters. Then we have Karen Fukuhara. She plays what's called the Female, and she's just this woman who they like find at, and they've been injecting her with superhero powers, this Compound V, like in a cage to see like what happens if you give it to adults. Okay. And yeah, and so she's just kind of like wily in the head, but she's really, really good. And then the last one I'll mention is Elizabeth. I can't remember her name. Anyways, she plays Madeline Stillwell. Elizabeth. Yeah. So Lizzie plays Madeline Stillwell. And then yeah, we have Simon Pegg, who's the dad.
Nice.
Next page. All right, so a couple of my favorite parts I just want to mention up. The opening, the reason Huey hates the superheroes is he's got this girlfriend and they're walking, again, all spoilers. They're walking down the street and just like, oh, maybe we'll move in together, stuff like that, and he's holding her hands. And then all of a sudden, it's just like it stops and she's gone. But then you see like blood start to splatter on his face. And what it was is A-Train, the Flash, runs so fast he runs through her and just shatters her. She's just vaporized. And he's holding her hand still. Oh, but they're like not connected to anybody.
That's messed up.
Yeah, and A-Train stops. He takes off his glasses. He's like, "I'm sorry, man. I gotta go." And he just goes, and then like leaves him. And he's just like freaking out, you know. Yeah. And then of course these lawyers come in later on, and they represent Vought and the Seven and everything like that. And they're like, "Well, he apologizes, but here's some money, $45,000, and why don't you not talk about this anymore?" And he's like, "No, fuck this. I want to talk to Vought. I want to see him. I want him to actually say sorry to me."
Yeah.
And so he's all upset about this, and then you have Billy Butcher who's out to get the Seven down, and we learn why later on. And he's like, "Well, why don't you help me?" And he ends up joining the boys. So you have the boys, and the reason that they were a CIA agent, now they're just kind of rogue. The reason they're hunting them down is because they're led by Billy Butcher, and Billy, he's, this is all very mature content. First, I want to throw that out there. But Billy's wife supposedly was raped by Homelander, basically Superman, and she committed suicide, is what he understands. And we learn later on, again, spoilers, but she got pregnant, and she was pregnant with Superman's baby, and the baby don't control nothing. So he's got you can see laser eyes forming
inside of her.
Well, yeah, they're inside of her, and so then we further find out that she gave birth to this thing, and and Stillwell's explaining this, and Homelander doesn't even know about this. Homelander knows about everything else but that. Doesn't know about the baby part because they told him you can't have kids. And the reason behind that is because they don't want him to love anything else except for the company.
Yeah.
Because so on that side you have that group that's hunting them down, and we'll just go with that. And then they find out that there's this Compound V that is what is injected to babies to create the superpowers. This whole thing was actually just a chemical, not actually naturally born powers. And so now they're trying to, and the overarching plan of Vought, the company that owns this team, is to make it to where they're part of the military and they're fighting terrorists. And so that's kind of the overarching thing. And everybody's got their own plans. One of my favorite parts about this thing. So in the process of doing this, there's this plane that's going to Europe, and it's like about to crash over the ocean. And this is one of my favorite moments too. Probably actually my favorite moment of the whole thing. So the planes are being scrambled to go try to do what they can whatever. Well, Stillwell tells Homelander, like, hey, if you guys can go save this thing, they're over international waters. We're not supposed to leave America, but over international waters we should be safe. Go save this plane, then that we have a reason to join the military. So he goes up there, guys. It's fucked up. So he's up there, and they're like, they kill a terrorist. And what's funny about this, and you don't think about it when you're reading Superman comics, Superman doesn't use his laser eyes much because they're just kill mode. I mean, you'll use it to break open stuff, but if you were to use it to actually stop people, you'd be murdering them left to right. Yeah. Homelander uses his eyes more than his strength, and it's just like when they're so good about.
So it's like Tony Stark's little laser beam trick he does, where it just cuts everything around him down, right?
Yeah, but he's just like because he doesn't think of people as normal or cares about him, so he'll just like mow him down real fast, and it's just like it's visceral to see how fast he doesn't care about people. Yeah. In the process, he finds there's a terrorist still in the pilot's cockpit, kills him, and destroys the cockpit in the same. So the plane's gonna go down. Well, then he's just
really sloppy at his job.
He's so careless, yeah. So they tells Queen Maeve, and he's like, "Hey, we got to go. We can't save this plane now. It's going down. I just fucked it up." And she's like, no, we have to save these people. She is right on the brink. Everybody's characters are so deep. She's like, no, we still got to be heroes. He's like, no, there's nothing we can do. She's like, can't you like lift the plane? He's like, what am I supposed to lift up on? I have to have the ground to lift up. I can't like just fly up. She's like, well, can't you hit it on the side? Like, no, puncture the thing. I'll really destroy it. Like he's got all kinds of reasons. Like,
he's finding excuses to not.
Well, and what's funny is she's trying to find almost excuses like we can do this still, and he's just like, no, makes sense. These people are dead. We can't do anything.
To him, she's being naive, and he's being practical.
Yeah, stop being childish. It's exactly that.
Yeah.
And so she then takes his mom and her daughter and like, we can carry these two out. And he's like, no witnesses.
Yeah, they can't know what happened.
Yeah. God. So then they leave him behind, and they're just floating there, and just plane crash and just done. And guys, it's so crazy. So then like, oh well, then you can't use that to try to get them into the military because it didn't work out. But then Homelander is so much smarter than they make him out to be in the beginning. He's later on, he's like looking at the crash, and he's like, the cameras are on him, and he starts to tear up. He's like, if only we were in the military and they got to us and they let us know about this plane problem before anybody else, we could have gotten here and saved them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh my God, he's so good. So that's the kind of vibe. Like, they're going back and forth on this stuff. And the relationships and how they try to evolve and stuff like that are really cool. The last character I really want to kind of shine a light on is the Deep. You start off hating this dude. And again, I would just want to throw out this mature warning over this. Mm-hmm. Okay? We're going to be saying terms that we don't normally say on the show, but we're going to be throwing that out there. So when Starlight, this innocent girl from the middle of the country, comes over and like, oh yeah, I'm happy. And he's like, oh, did you like us when you were kids? He's like, yeah, actually I had a poster of you on the wall. So just think of Aquaman. And he's like, oh yeah. So then he pulls down his pants and says, this is what you got to do to join the group. And she doesn't want to, but she does eventually because she understands, this is what she has to do, blah, blah, blah. So right away, we hate him, But he's Aquaman, and think of every Aquaman joke you've ever heard in your life. Like, he's always just the worst Justice League member. Nobody cares about him. Oh, yeah, you can talk to fish. And is the butt of the jokes. Yeah. Now, what I don't care for is in the comic books, he's the only one that didn't do that. Homelander, Black Noir, which is like their Batman, and one of the other ones that came. Oh, A-Train. All did that to her. Yeah. So he's the only one that didn't. So it was like, you guys are already making him the butt of all your jokes. Plus you made him the rapist.
Corrupting the one good guy you had.
Well, not even like nobody's good. Right. But yeah, it's like, it was just too much. But watching him collapse, because then eventually she becomes like, she ends up blowing up at one event, and then she becomes like the model of womanhood, and she's like, oh, I was raped by blah, 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 blah. And so then it's kind of like, everybody's like, well, then it has to be this one. They all kind of figured out to the Deep. So they're like, okay, well, now you're part of Sandusky. You're like the superhero Sandusky. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the great things is he's like, we need to protect dolphins more. And so he tries to, and he's, for like Marine World. So he gets a dolphin, and he's driving with it in the back of the van. and the dolphin's like, obviously trying to like come on him, and he's the only one that can talk back. So we're only hearing his side of the conversation. So he's like, don't worry, we're almost at the ocean. And then he's like driving, squeaking in the back, and he's like, we're not supposed to talk about this. Like, a really bad time to talk about this. And then like they go. But then, like, eventually, like, he's surrounded by cops, whatever. He slams it on the brakes. The dolphin flies to the front of the window. This show's so dark. And, like, he's, like, watching as the dolphin goes, beep, 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 like, I love you or whatever. Lands on the road, semi comes by, obliterates the dolphin like A-Train through a girlfriend. And it's just such a mess.
It sounds like a depressing show.
It's so dark. It's
so
such
why
a
do you
great
start
show.
liking him, though?
You don't never like him, but you
okay.
feel bad for him. Like,
Okay.
he actually even gets raped at some point, too. Like, Gil raped. It's real weird. By a woman. Nevertheless, it's real bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has a good story though as it goes on. I really think that it's something that we could see a lot of future episodes out of, a future season out of. I would give this like a real solid B+. I would have made some changes. I think they made all the correct changes from the comic book except for what happened to the Deep. But it was really, I think they were trying to hide Homelander's evilness for like an episode, is why they didn't. Then they actually it was the final part of the first episode. You find out that A-Train or Homelander is not Superman; he's evil. But it's super good. I really suggest you guys watch it. I'd give it a B+.
I think I'll check it out tonight.
And the thing I was talking to you about, I was worried about the superhero fatigue because we get a lot of superheroes in what we do. But this one took such a different approach to them that you felt like this isn't quite the same.
Yeah.
You know.
And only the 7 are superheroes, right? The boys aren't.
The boys aren't. That's one big change they made from the comic books that I think was a good move.
Yeah.
Is in the comic books they inject themselves with this compound V, so they have super strength. Yeah. It's like, man, that changes everything. It's way cooler when
it's
they
like Bane, right?
Yeah, but it's way cooler if you have just like the ragtag, like cool guys that are no superpowers at all. So that'd probably be something that happens in season 2. But you know, I thought it was way cooler to not have any powers, and in the comics they do. So yeah. Anyways, check out the Deep. Give it a B+.
Sure.